the Detweilers. My name is Carla, this is my husband Brad, and we are a new family of 6. We have a son named Dominic Blitz Detweiler. He is 6 years old. Our Daniel is 5, Stella is 3, and our sweet David is almost 4 months old. David is our special boy. He, at 20 weeks gestation, we found out that in utero he did not have a functioning kidney. He was actually missing a kidney, and the kidney that he did have was multicystic and dysplastic.
Doctors pretty much recommended to terminate the pregnancy, and obviously for us that wasn't an option, so Carla did the research on her own, and there were only 10 hospitals across the country that did the amnio infusions. With Carla's perseverance and persistence, she was able to go through weekly to the amnio infusions once a week. Going down to Cincinnati, we started the first one. We left on Christmas Day and left the other kids behind, and then we stayed down there Christmas night. Our first appointment was at 6:30 in the morning on the day after Christmas. So, and then from there it was all on with the infusions, and luckily with those, nothing, any complications or anything with the infusions, and it all went pretty smooth. There's a lot of risks involved, and there's a lot of things that we had to learn at the beginning through the process at Cincinnati, and all the different qualifications that he needed to meet. And we'd had the option of going through with the infusions, and the doctors had the options of going through with the infusions. So out of every 10 persons that actually meet with the doctors down there, only 1 out of those 10 ever actually make it to the infusions. And then the ones that do make it to the infusions, it's only like a 5% chance of even surviving birth after the infusions. So basically with his condition, it wasn't his kidneys that was gonna make him not survive. It was due to the lack of amniotic fluid in the lungs not developing. Therefore, he wouldn't be a pulmonary survivor.
So the day that David was born was April 9th, and I went into work. I own a salon, I'm a hairstylist, and I worked most of the day. And then typically twice a week, I would go to my maternal fetal medicine appointments, and they would do some measurements. They would measure his heart rate. They would measure his movements. There were certain things that he had to meet every time I went to one of these appointments in order for them to consider him safe. So we had stopped doing the amnio infusions at 32 weeks. So basically David's size, they didn't believe was big enough yet to be put onto peritoneal dialysis. So I had to stop the infusions at 32 weeks, and then we just had to keep our fingers crossed that his lungs were developed enough at delivery for him to be a pulmonary survivor. So I went in that day, they hooked me up to the machines, and they basically couldn't find his heartbeat. So without the amniotic fluid in my abdomen, they believed that there was maybe some cord clamping, and they needed to deliver him, because had we not delivered him that day, pretty much everything we had done up to that point to get him here would have been for no reason. So it happened super quick. I was taken to the hospital at about 3 o'clock and called him on the way, and kind of scary, he actually got to the hospital before I did. And it was pretty much right across the street, so I know he was going really quick. Called all of our friends and family that we needed to get the kids, and we got to the hospital, and David was born at 5:25 p.m. that day. So one of the scariest moments of our lives for sure.
After birth, we didn't even know he was born. He was didn't make a noise, wasn't breathing. They had to tell us that they had already taken him out of the room, because we asked, is he born yet? So they said yes, and they had already whisked him off away and started putting his tube in, intubating him to allow him to breathe. And on the way from Akron General to Akron Children's, he didn't have any recognizable pulse. So he was in very, very rough shape when he was first born. I don't think we really knew that until probably the day after. Nurses and doctors did a pretty good job of downplaying how critical and severe he was, but in our eyes, we never thought there was really an issue. I mean, obviously we knew there was an issue with his condition, but we didn't really realize how dire it was until a day or two later.
So day-to-day life at the Detweiler household is pretty hectic. David is hooked up to dialysis every day around 7 p.m. and he's on dialysis for 12 hours. So Brad and I are the only two people that know how to hook him up to his machines. We made that decision earlier on. We never wanted there to ever be something that would happen, and we wanted that to just be our responsibility, because it's very, very important that it's very sterile and that his chest cavity doesn't get infected. So that is something that he and I strictly do. So we hook him up to dialysis at night, and then pretty much one of us just kind of hunkers down in our bedroom until everyone gets to bed. The other one puts the other three to sleep. They pretty much are in our room most of the night, watching TV, talking, playing with each other in bed. Just we hang out in our bedroom pretty much from 7 p.m. on through the next morning. So
he's also on feeds, so he can't eat by himself through a bottle. He has to have a feeding tube. With his feeding tube, every 3 hours he's on a feeding tube, and it takes an hour for him to get his feed, and he has 2 hours off, an hour on, 2 hours off, so on and so forth, until at night when we do the dialysis. He's also hooked up to a continuous feed, which just gives him continuous drip into his stomach for over a 9-hour span, and that's how he gets his nutrition, due to the fact that he can't eat on his own, which will come when he gets his kidney transplant. His taste buds will come back and he'll start to eat and get an appetite, but for now he doesn't have any kind of appetite whatsoever, because kidneys, believe it or not, are tied to your taste buds. It releases a hormone, so he doesn't really taste anything, so it's basically everything he eats or drinks or whatever would just be like drinking water.
Yeah, so he just doesn't really have any interest in eating, but I was still able to produce breast milk, and we still give him that, supplemented with some other nutrition that we have to add to his feeds: sodium chloride, sodium phosphate, iron, a multivitamin, Nephronex, just a lot. So it's really rough on his stomach, so we spend a lot of time of our day cleaning him up, cleaning up his reflux. So it's a challenge, and kidney babies just are very slow growers because of that. They just don't digest things the way that regular kids do, on top of all the extra things that he's getting in his feeds that really makes his belly uncomfortable. So, he's growing though. We're over 11 pounds now, and he's still kind of short. He's only about 18 inches, but he's just kind of a round little chub ball right now. But he's growing, and the doctors are happy with all of that. So David, about 2 weeks ago, was diagnosed with something called PHPV, and it's basically he's blind for all practical purposes. From the beginning, I always knew there was something wrong with his vision and wrong with his eyes, and I think you would agree that we both were concerned about that right from the beginning. And finally, it caught the attention of one of his doctors, and we quickly were whisked into an eye exam, and it was determined that he had this. So it's another huge hurdle for his life. In fact, sometimes now we look at the kidney issue, and it seems smaller in comparison to what his life is going to be like now, being blind.
Yeah, the day we found out about the kidney issue is the day that we came up with his name, which was David Matthew. David as in David and Goliath, Matthew as a gift from God. And we thought that was a pretty fitting name for him. Plus there's some other family members with the names as well. But one thing with Carla and I, both of us growing up, before we ever knew each other, was basically tell us we can't, show you we will. And he's already has that from the get-go. And
yeah. So our saying that we go back to all the time is, if God puts a Goliath in front of you, there must be a David inside of you. And we're taking this life journey, and David is showing us one stone at a time.
It's unbelievable how much you can learn from a little baby and look up to a baby, and just watching him fight and persevere and just overcome obstacle after obstacle, and shows us that he wants to be here. And that was one thing that we had said from the very beginning, that we'll fight for him as long as he shows us he wants to fight, and he's done nothing but fight. The blind part to me has been more difficult. because it just went from a 2-year problem to a lifelong problem. But at the same time, the kid doesn't know any different, and it's more of an opportunity for us to learn how to live life in a different way and absorb how he lives life and learn things from him. He's impacted more lives than any of us ever will or have. I mean, people came out of the woodwork, and a lot of them were people you'd never even expect. And it's just been an overwhelming experience of how much people have reached out to us. So thank you to everybody for that, and we greatly appreciate it. And basically, we just want to get his story out and tell the world about it, and hopefully reach out to other people and make a difference in someone else's life when that's going through the same situation during a pregnancy or now with the condition of being blind, that we can be there as an advocate. And I think that's one thing Carla will say too, be an advocate for your kid, and that's what we've done, especially of her, and that's why he's here.
We could have made a much different decision the day that we found out about his diagnosis, and no regrets. We would do it all over again every day, because he is such a special gift to us and to everyone that's going to be in his life and that he's going to touch. David's going to show us all. He's going to show us all what he's here for and what he sees. So thank you again to all of my clients, all of Brad's work family, all of my work family. Everyone has been so incredible. It's almost hard for us to take all of the help and everything that we've gotten from everybody, because we've just always been two people that have done everything on our own. You know, we work hard, but we needed help. We realized that we needed help over the last few months, and not one person that we know has been short in helping or giving, and we just are so humbled by it. So thank you to everybody. We want everyone to know that don't give up on your kids. Doctors are doctors. They're human just like the rest of us, and we just felt strong in our faith, and we knew that David was supposed to be here for a really special reason. He's a fighter, and we are determined to give him the best life possible, given the situation that he's been dealt, because Brad and I are firm in our faith, and he's here for a bigger reason than we even know right now. So
I will fight for you.